Master of Magic, released by Microprose in 1994, is a fantasy strategy game in the same vein as Civilization. The player takes on the role of a powerful wizard with the aim of exploring the world of Arcanus, expanding their magical empire, exploiting the riches of the land, and exterminating any other wizards who get in their way until they alone become the Master of Magic. If it sounds like I've glossed over the premise and story for this game, it's because it basically doesn't have one. As with most 4X games, there isn't any kind of campaign or narrative to play through. You just set up a game and go. The most interesting part of the game, and the thing that kept me coming back for more, is how many variables there are in almost every aspect of the gameplay. When starting out, you have to choose your player character, or create your own custom one. Each has their own strengths and weaknesses, meaning that they might be faster at researching new spells, be able to train better armies, or draw more of certain types of magic from the landscape. As well as basic arcane magic, each character also has knowledge of one or two other realms of magic, including nature, chaos, life, death, and sorcery, which completely changes the types of spells you can cast and thus dramatically affects how the game might play out. For example, Chaos Magic has far more spells that will cause damage to enemies in combat, but nature spells can be extremely useful for uncovering the world map and moving units around quickly. Should you choose a wizard who knows more than one realm, who can cast a bigger variety of spells, or go with a specialist who will eventually have access to more powerful magic? The important choices you have to make before even starting the game don't end there. Now comes the time to choose the race you'll start with. From the choice between high men, nomads, halflings, orcs, clacons, who appear in the Master of Orion games, and many more, you get yet more variables, as some races will grow their towns faster, make better soldiers, or even make you start the game in a completely different area. Once the game actually starts, it's time to build your first city and explore the landscape. Where you choose to settle can be crucial, as the surrounding squares on the map will affect how large a city can become, how much gold will be produced, and so on. Each city can only build one thing at a time, so it's very important to prioritize, and also important to keep an eye on what you have your subjects doing. Each city has its own population which slowly grows and generates tax revenue, but you also need to choose how they are split between builders and farmers. The more builders you have, the fewer turns it takes to create structures and train units. You must also be careful to always have enough farmers producing food, otherwise you'll start losing your armies to starvation. Choosing the right improvements for your city can increase the level of production or food yield, or even reduce the number of rebels in a city who do no work and pay no taxes. Once you have more than a couple of cities, it really starts to become a challenge to keep everything in order, particularly when you start seizing cities of other races who might be able to produce different buildings and units than your own. The good thing is that, unlike a lot of games from its era, Master of Magic is very good about giving you the information you need, and if necessary taking away some of the burden of leadership. Right-clicking on something almost always produces a helpful pop-up window saying what that thing does, and if you only want to worry about leading your armies to new glories, you can delegate the development of your cities to your Grand Vizier. I really like Master of Magic's presentational style. Everything in what could have otherwise been a rather stodgy user interface is couched in the fiction of the game. So, instead of going to the map screen, you consult your cartographer. Instead of accessing your character screen, you simply look in the mirror. This might seem like quite a small thing, but it really helps make what can be an extremely complex game that little bit more approachable. As well as the usual 4X tropes of building armies and conquering other cities, Master of Magic features some interesting RPG mechanics. As you would expect, units who win battles for you gain experience and become stronger. In addition to soldiers you train yourself, you will occasionally be approached by heroes willing to fight for you. But with heroes you also need monsters, and scattered across the map are various kinds of dungeon and monster lair which can be explored, offering some tempting rewards if you defeat whatever lurks within. This could be something as mundane as gold, but maybe you'll find some equipment for your heroes. Probably the most valuable thing you can have your heroes do is defeat a Tower Guardian. Once under control, towers allow units to cross into the parallel world of Mirror, effectively doubling the amount of land to explore and offering a whole new set of monsters and races to interact with. The only real problem I have with Master of Magic is just how difficult it is. If you haven't read the manual about how attacks in combat are resolved, it's very easy to have an army wiped out against what appears to be a much weaker force, and you will be doing a lot of fighting as the AI players tend to hate you for no discernible reason. There are two ways of winning: either destroy all the other wizards, or by successfully researching and casting the spell of mastery. Neither of these things is easy. Capturing the city in which a wizard has their enchanted fortress only banishes them. Opponents with enough magical power may be able to cast a spell allowing them to return to another one of their cities, and even while banished they can still do some things to frustrate your plans. The spell of mastery, on the other hand, is extremely rare, takes huge amounts of time and mana to cast, and automatically makes all the other wizards declare war on you as soon as you try to cast it. You probably won't be surprised to hear I've only ever beaten the game once, on easy. Another minor drawback is that there's no multiplayer, which is a great shame because the diplomacy aspect of the game would be so much better against other humans. There is a multiplayer mod out there somewhere, but I'm a bit scared of playing this game against people who actually know what they're doing. Despite its punishing nature, I'd still recommend Master of Magic, particularly if you like tweaking complex systems or engrossing yourself in a slightly unusual fantasy world. Much like more famous examples of the genre, it hooks you in that subtle way that makes 2 hours seem like 15 minutes, and overwhelms you with twists and variables that will apparently take nothing less than a mage to master.